What would be Patrice Roy's top 3 tips for experienced C++ developers on managing memory safety efficiently?
Oh, it's going to be the same thing for everyone. The first thing is you need to is a clear view of what you want to do and what your problem is. You should think before you code. If you don't know what you're doing and just hacking away, sometimes it's fun, but it's not efficient. And you might put a lot of effort in the wrong place. And then you should measure. You should measure to know, to see if the normal solutions are not already doing the job. I've seen too many people, myself included, because sometimes you're so convinced that you're doing the right thing, put hours, if not days, if not weeks, sometimes into optimizing something that in the end you realize is not called in practice much. So you put a lot of effort and there's no returns. So use profilers, use actual measurements, instrument your code, and see where should I put my efforts. That will really pay off. If you don't do that, you're just wasting your time, you're wasting your company's money. And then you should test your stuff, because it's one thing to have a theoretical view of what you want to do, but then you measure it to know what the needs were, and in the end, you see if you get actual returns on your investment, if you didn't break anything. That's important. Test often. I don't do that much enough myself. Everyone should do that. Should run tests regularly. An example, if you let me, a small example for optimization purposes is the likely and unlikely attributes. We added them in C++20 to let programmers say, well, in that if branch, I think I'm going to be taking the else branch more often than the if branch. So I know stuff. So I'm going to tell my compiler, optimize for the else, because I'm pretty sure this is where I'm going to go and practice. Compilers are good at figuring these things out. They're very, very, very good. But sometimes because you know the data. The compiler doesn't know the data. It knows what your code looks like, but doesn't know what the inputs will be. So maybe you know that your data comes in groups of 4 or 8, and that's why something is likely. That's the information known to the compiler. But otherwise, compilers are very bright. So one of the compiler writers, Jonathan Caves, who I love, bright guy, a very nice guy to chat with, he works at Microsoft. So Jonathan told me, these things, they go stale. These optimizations, we put them there, you have to really retest your assumptions often, because sometimes compiler technology changes, optimizer technology changes, and maybe the naive code will beat the hell out of your optimized thing at some point because they figured things out you didn't see. Another thing that was there, I have a friend that I gave a class in the evening, and a friend of mine came to discuss optimization things for real-time audio. And this guy writes assembly code from time to time because he measures, he profiles, and at some point he gets to the stage where if you want to be faster and you realize that this function eats up 5% of your CPU, well, this is the one I'm going to optimize, and this is the time where I need to do my hands and do assembly code. But when he does that, he always keeps the basic, naive, even C or C++ version of his code handy. And he regularly retests and compares the optimized assembly version with the basic stuff. Because there's always comes a time where compiler technology makes it so that your basic stuff would be faster than your assembly code. And then, well, you retire it because it's not useful anymore. So you keep it handy. It's easier to reason on C++ code than an assembly code for most people. And so, yeah, retest your assumptions often. So planning or thinking, seeing the problem clearly, then measuring to make sure that your efforts are worth something, and in the end, testing, retesting, and retesting again to make sure you didn't break anything, that your work brings results. The one well-known quote from our tenant, also programmer, there's one, is that the older you get and the more you realize that you're bad at assuming what's going to be fast and slow in your thought.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Patrice.